What's something you always said you'd never like, but now love? Drinking. As a kid, I despised alcohol, couldn't even drink the stuff, and had a staunch no drinking because of all the alcoholic family I have. Now I can took a good 2 years of drinking liters a day, but I can now drink whiskey straight and enjoy the taste. But I will never tolerate Jack straight. That stuff isn't whiskey, it's whiskey. Best part, I'm not alcoholic, so I'm not falling into my family heritage. Side note, I had to take a high-proof sleep medication as a kid, so I really despised the smell and taste of alcohol because of that. Fried eggplant. Family member made some, and they were actually great. I love every vegetable except red beets now. Those I'll never ever like or knowingly eat. When used as a coloring, etc. I can tell. I get nauseated. Not in an allergic way, but as if my Slavic gene pool ate them every day from birth. Then my mum are them 3 eggs a day for 9 months. Then my body rejects any part of it. So yes, I used to hate eggplant like no tomorrow. It's amazing what a great cook can do. Receiving flowers from my significant other. Before getting into my first relationship, I always said that flowers and chocolates are corny, and that flowers just die anyways. Ever since I met my boyfriend, he has given me handmade bouquets every time we see each other. We do long distance and see each other about 5 times a year. It's a no-brainer, but I learned that it's about the thought behind giving and thinking about the receiver when purchasing or creating a gift. Working at 8-5 desk job, my job is challenging in a good way. I never get bored and always learning. I love my work-life balance, and my mental health is so much better when compared to old jobs. I used to live in a beautiful house in South Los Angeles for a job, but I work 80-100 hours each week. I made great money, but I absolutely hated that I had no life. Work-life balance is so important. I didn't hate them per se, but I was not a cat person growing up. My sister was a dog person that became a cat person, and now I do like cats. Now that I've had a proper introduction, not just a preconceived notion of what they are like. But again, I wouldn't say I love them, just appreciate them more, understand why they do make great pets, and I respect their catitude. Crocs we all used to give tons of shit to the ones in our group who wore them in our 20s or all in good jest. But I'm in my 30s now, and don't feel self-conscious, and someone bought me a pair for Christmas a few years back. My god, they are so comfortable and versatile. I take back all the dumb shit I talked about sports mode. I was young and blind to the truth. Olives. I always hated them. But they read an article that said you have to eat something you dislike X times before you'll train your taste buds to like it. Over the course of the next year, every time I went somewhere there were olives, I'd force myself to eat one even if it made me gag, and lo and behold, it worked. I absolutely love olives now. Swearing sounds stupid, but when I was young, I felt like swearing was the epitome of a lack of creativity. That if you couldn't come up with a more interesting word to express yourself, boo on you. That after getting older and going through a lot of life, shit, man, does it feel fucking good to throw down some four-letter words? Tall men. Grew up around men my high, so that is what I was comfortable with dating. But the man I like, who is an absolute sweetheart and down to earth, is pretty tall. Shockingly, I don't mind as much as I thought I would. I also like who he is as a person. Plus, I am very attracted to his facial features. Skirts and dresses. Hated them when I was a kid and first finding out about how I'd be perceived if I dressed curly. Despite being born female, I swore never to wear them in my life. Now they're my favorite part of my outfits, and I love stacking layers of dresses, skirts, and shirts on top of each other. Classical music. When I was growing up, my parents tried to make me listen to it. I hated it so much. Made my father very sad. When I grew up, I somehow started listening to it myself, and I'm now of the opinion that Ludwig van is the greatest composer that ever lived. Sorry, Dad. You were right. Being a parent, I always said I never wanted kids. I was happy with my husband, job, and dogs. and me pregnant accidentally during COVID. Now I can't imagine my life without my daughter. I adore her and it's amazing watching her become a little person. The days are long but the years are short. My now husband, for real. I couldn't stand him when we first met. Just thought he was cocky and didn't like his personality. Side-eyed him for a year, finally agreed to a date, and we have been married for 16 years and have 5 kids. Can't believe I ever disliked anything about him now. Eating biscuits. I always thought I disliked compulsive eating. But now, it doesn't matter when. It doesn't matter why. I'll go through one for a pack in one sitting. Especially chocolate ones. If my future wife is killing me for one reason, it's compulsive biscuit eating, yo. Sleep. I remember as a kid always wanting to stay up late. Now as an adult, I crawl into bed, put on an episode of Doberman Encounters Radio on YouTube or some other cryptid program and pass the fuck out. Those multi-hour compilations of Doberman or Bigfoot encounter stories are great. Being single. I serial dated from high school on through to my mid-30s. Almost never single. Now I'm in absolutely no hurry whatsoever to start again. COVID gave me a breather and now I'm not sure I want to go back into all of that. I've barely tried the last few years. Crocs. All my life I was told they're ugly. Waste of money. Blah blah bleg. Best fucking shoes. I need one pair to replace 10 pairs. Like my slippers. Casual shoes. Walking shoes. River shoes. Shower shoes, camp shoes, whatever. They are like 10-in-1 shoes. This was years ago around season 6, but Game of Thrones I tried to watch it a few times and never found it interesting enough to continue. One day I needed something to watch and said fuck it, I will just binge it and enjoyed it from that point forward. Gay sex, men, etc. and driving. Still fuck cars. But I work in a really remote area and have to drive and find it fun to tear up the dirt roads around here in a lifted F350. I will go back to not driving back at home, but I've been enjoying driving. I never understood the passion women had for purses, especially designer bags. Several years later, I started buying a couple and I'm still buying them. Love all the different designs and the prices while I find them at thrift stores especially. Cohen. I hated nu metal until I met my girlfriend. She grew up in a trailer park, so that tracks. The Deftones are pretty good too. I wouldn't pay admission to see a nu metal show. But if it's on in the car or in the kitchen, I'm down. As cringe to me my whole life, until a convention a few years ago. And K-pop because I'd heard people make fun of pop stars. But I never heard any of the music until Blackpink and BTS. Until around 2020. Will never be able to handle shrooms, I would just give myself a bad trip. But I started trying them and broke through. And no, I can't say I really learned anything useful from them. I love the high. Living in the suburbs, 25-year-old me could not imagine moving away from the hip urban neighborhoods. Older me realizes that being stumbling distance to a bar is not a feature. And I can sleep better in my quiet dark suburb. Guacamole. I had only ever had nasty fast food guacamole and it was always gross. Then I went to Mexico. I had it made tableside in a restaurant and that shit was amazing. So now I like it if it's good authentic stuff. Veggies. I hate veggies growing up. Turns out, I just didn't like steamed and microwaved veggies like my parents made. I love most vegetables. Just prefer them cooked in the oven with some olive oil, salt and pepper. Being a designer ... I always wanted to be a CS. But somehow I became a graphic designer. Although I'm still a fresher and still seeking to get hired, but still I can say I don't regret making this as my career choice. Going to a diet without meat or dairy. I grew up on both and had meat usually to X a day, at least. I switched to plant-based about 2 months ago and feel so much better. Never thought I would be on a plant-based diet. Mushrooms. I always hated them until my dad cooked them for me sliced very thin. fried on both sides until golden. Put on top of soft scrambled eggs. They were amazing, and I like any mushrooms cooked any way now. Remember when leggings with no shirt, short skirts covering the butt first became mainstream 2008? I told my friend how weird it looks, but about a decade later I tried it and it's my everyday look now. Kilts. Never was a fan of them. And then my old employer decided to ban shorts. Being the malicious compliance type that I went out and bought a kilt as a way to protest the absurd changes. Now I love them. People's company. I've always been antisocial and lived on my own for years. My partner moved in after a few years into our relationship. I struggled for a while, but I couldn't imagine being without her now. Red wine. I could barely even stomach a sip of it. I also thought it was too adult and sophisticated. Now I genuinely crave a glass of red wine. I guess I'm an adult. Not sure on the sophisticated part. Tattoos with flowers in them. When I was 16 I said I'd never get one that has flowers in it. And now I have one that's a bouquet, and I'm planning on getting at least a few more with flowers as an accent. Weightlifting and heavy metal ... I still love gaming and chill out music. That's how I spend my evenings. But if I don't start the day at 6 a.m. with heavy weights and heavy metal, I feel bummed all day. Writing. Sitting outside midday if it's windy or raining. The phone bores me now. I only play on it occasionally. Before I was glued to it. Buttermilk ranch and blue cheese, couldn't stand it before.